Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 107. This is a great podcast. We had a lot of different topics, but focusing a lot on the latest research. There's definitely going to be some scandals in this one, right? Does full range of motion make it more better or better in every way, shape, or form than restricted range of motion or doing half reps? What does that mean from a scientific perspective? Latest research just released here recently tells us the answer to range of motion, the most important, or really not in a dud? Is it just time under tension? We also talk about some of the gym bro science stuff. Should children be doing resistance training? Should you be stretching or not stretching? We'll also be talking a little bit about whether or not if you stop training, does that turn to fat? So many different topics in this one, but a lot of information, a lot of data to maximize your goals. Talk a little about some of the misnomers and misconceptions, the myths, and really break down to what's actual, what's real, so you can maximize your performance, your goals, and be successful. Tune in for this week's podcast.
You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording of myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. Yo, welcome back, everybody. Episode 107. I have had the Twitterverse say that we need to keep the yo in, so we'll keep it.
Got the yos.
Yeah, we got the yo. What's going on, dude? Happy Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, August 30th, but for our viewers, it will be next week.
It'll be September in the future.
Yeah, it'll be September. It'll be in the future. So we're actually talking to you from the past, not the future. But no, things are good, man. I just got back from Houston. I had a business meeting out there, and
looking sharp at your business meeting, dressed like an adult.
Thank you. So I found this guy that. So I for those that don't know me personally, I have a horrible sense of fashion. I would rather just wear cutoff t-shirts and gym shorts. In fact, we had an ISC squared chapter meeting here, which is a lot of business folks that come here. We have all these different meeting events at the Trust Tech headquarters, and everybody's in polos and kind of like half suits and things like that. And I came downstairs in literally gym shorts and a cutoff t-shirt, Noble t-shirt, just to say hi to everybody. So that's how I prefer to roll. But I found this guy that's awesome in the Cosmo. There's a clothing store in the Cosmo, and this guy Anthony dresses very well. And I was with Aaron, and so we ended up buying a couple suits out there. They tailored it for me and then shipped it out. And it's funny because my meeting was Monday, and FedEx got delayed with the shipping, and it said it wasn't going to deliver till Monday night. I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to wear my new suits. But then it showed up Saturday evening. I was like, oh sweet, here we go. But I didn't have time to clean it, so it smelled like the Cosmo, which is like cigarettes and perfume. So I was like, all right, so I'm gonna have to cover this up pretty well. So it was a lot of fun, but good to get back. And all my training's been going really solid. The one other thing is Tesla just updated yesterday, and it allowed full self-driving, which has been freaking me out, man. That thing's insane and insanely cool. Literally just drove to work, and I said, hey, I'm going to work, and it backed me out of my garage, closed my garage door, and drove me to work without me touching it once, which is freaking crazy. So
we are living in the future, dude.
That's right.
That is next level. Like I said, Matt got his Tesla last week, and he's like, and I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And I'm like, I do not need this. Like, I do not need you to sell me a Tesla. Like, I'm in whatever way I'm in. But no, I mean, it sounds cool. Even from I don't think he has the same updates. So we're there yet over here. But
how you doing, dude?
How am I doing? I'm doing good. I'm a bit backwards on my training days, so please don't shout at me. But I know you're backwards on your training days too. But no, things are good, dude. I have lost weight this week, eating my 2,800 calories. So I mean, I know what that means. But no, things are good, dude.
More calorie deficit. I'm gonna put you down to 1,800 calories. The goal is to sabotage you so that I become out of this bigger and you're smaller. So
I don't know what's going on. I don't know why it's not working.
why am I getting smaller? I don't understand.
No, but things are good. As actually the session that I did on Monday, as I text you, I almost, I don't want to say forgot, but I was reminded of what it feels like to train whenever you are on those high calories. Obviously, I haven't really been on a surplus, like a planned surplus for a long time. So felt really, really good in the gym. Felt like full, like solid, whenever I was training. So it was good to feel that, and it sort of made me excited for what's to come, because obviously we're still, you know, super early on in the process. But yeah, no, things are good on this end. Just actually getting ready to. I'm prepping my talk for Matt's event next week, which I think is going to be cool. He wants me to talk in front of, I think there's maybe 50 coaches going to Ibiza, so that'll be fun. So that's what I've got going on at the minute, and then obviously getting caught up with onboarding new clients, sending out welcome packs, and doing all other bits and pieces. So yeah, things are good on this end.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude. You're going to be busy for the next few weeks, huh?
Yeah, but that's good. It's good to be busy. I mean, I would rather be busy working than not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say, I blacked out deadlifting yesterday.
You definitely
that was also
did.
amazing.
You definitely did. Proper.
Yeah, I definitely blacked out. Yeah, it was you know, as I'm lifting, because I just, you know, I like to interchange squats and deadlifts. So I do legs twice a week. We both do legs twice a week. And so Saturday was my heavy deadlift day. And I PR'd, by the way. So I did 545 conventional, which I'm now fully converted over to conventional deadlifts.
Good.
So people can stop giving me shit for doing sumo. But and I don't care anyway. You know, and then but this yesterday I was doing legs, and I was only doing 525, and I'd already done heavy squats. So I did 585 squats, and I was pretty you know, tired after that point. But I did the 525, and I got like halfway up, and I was like, oh no, here we go. And all the lights started dimming. So I dropped it really quick and took a knee, and then I basically just kind of fell to the ground. And so it was that only happens a few times, but it is actually normal for those that are listening. You know, blood rushing to the head and then a mass exodus can cause that, and it's not harmful in any way. It's obviously harmful if you pass out and like hit your head on something. So you got to be very careful.
Some sort of like either like emotional support dog that can alert somebody if something bad happens, or like a robot that can like, you need like some sort of AI robot to know that you're okay.
Well, you know, listen, we do have the agreement that if either one of us dies lifting, we fly. We don't say anything to anybody because you're already dead at that point. We fly to that person's house and we put 10 times the amount of weight that was supposed to be on there, that was on there, that is now on there, and then call the police. So
yeah, absolutely fair.
Yeah. But no, it's been a solid week. You know, training's been actually really good. The surplus has been awesome, and my weight's kind of stabilized. So when I between Vegas and I had a vacation in DC and the travel, you know, I kind of stopped counting calories in the sense of being still focused on protein, but kind of eating whatever I wanted to. And I gained like 10 pounds within like 3.5 weeks. So I was at like 236 and 235. I was like, damn, I'm going to get to 250 in like a month. So obviously
completed it, ready for a
ton. 8-month ball cut down to a month, but it was good because you know, I got right back on consistency again, and I'm sitting at 231 today. So normalized the balance of the weight, and you know, did lose a bit of pounds, which is good because you know, you don't want to be packing on that much weight in a bulk cycle. You want to be balancing that with muscle, which, you know, again, our bodies, you know, produce 1 to 2 pounds of muscle per month on a maximum. You know, like those conditions are all perfect. You're gaining 1 to 2 pounds a month. So, you know, having gained 10 pounds in a month is not muscle.
Not optimal.
It is not great.
This morning I was 215. So I have a much greater distance to go from you to 240.
We should like try to converge. So I'll just try to lose, and we'll hit the same spot, and then we'll see.
We can look at a trajectory and see, right, what date are we going to match?
What day are we going to match? Yeah.
Or else we could do it. Though, I mean, if we really do it, if we want to both be at sort of 240 or 250 by April, we just need to know how many more calories that I need to consume in you, and we can just work backwards from that. It's easy enough to do.
That's right.
It's just math. It's just math and science.
Just math and science, and eating. But I will say, you know, I'm very happy with. So like, if you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, both Ben and I have been on a deficit for a little bit to kind of get a decent looking physique, you know, while we're out in Vegas and while we're on vacation and in the summertime, which is, you know, kind of a nice ebbs and flows, right? So in the wintertime, you know, become a grizzly bear, you know, eat as much food as you need to gain weight and to pack the muscles on, and kind of shave it on a deficit. And so I liked how I felt. But when you're in a deficit for that long, you know, everything from your strength doesn't really substantially increase. It's a much slower process. The amount of energy you have, especially to exert during a workout period. You really have to time your carbohydrates and food right to get the level of energy that you need. So there's a lot of variables that play into deficits on what you can accomplish. And it's been nice to be, on a slight surplus because I've noticed that, my strength has definitely gone up. I'm hitting PRs again. I'm having a lot more energy in the gym. And the problem now I have is that I just don't want to leave the gym. So like I'll be in there for like 3 hours and Aaron's like, "Are you still in the gym? It's like noon and you were there since like 6 in the morning." I'm like, yeah. Just like just like half an hour. Like, don't rush me. But so I do like the deficit, or I do like the surplus quite a bit. And I'll tell you the check-in photos today that I'll send. Very happy with that. Can still see visible abs, but one thing that I'm really starting to notice a change in is my quads. I'm actually starting to see my quads start to grow pretty substantially. And that's been amazing to see. Like my quads have been one of my more difficult muscles, I think, to grow because it's just so much volume you have to continuously add into that, right? And so if you're looking at building quads, upper body, if you look at the size of your muscles, right? Bicep, very small muscle group, right? So when you add a pound onto that,
whoa, you said I've got small biceps?
I'm just saying in general, they're a small muscle group.
Okay.
Traps, same thing. Chest, they're from a volume perspective, your quads are one of your largest muscles in your body. And, to develop and to build those and to grow those takes just a long time, a lot of progress. Same thing for back, by the way. Back takes a long time to build out. And so being able to start to see some of the progress in the quads and like, you can see when I'm doing like the hack squats, the separation, of the quadricep and the hamstrings and the glutes and kind of how it's all coming together. Really cool. So I'm very happy with checking photos and, weight's still at a good nominal level. Energy's a good level. Excited about it.
I want to talk about the check-in because you delivered your first check-in feedback last week and I did my first check-in with you. What a fucking weird experience that was for me.
Yeah.
You must have done yours back to back as well. Like you must have, I don't know whether you did my check-in feedback first and then your check-in, but you must have done them back to back. But I will say that you did a very good job. You delivered it well. You gave me the sort of positive reinforcement and told me what we needed to work on and then move forward. So it was good job on your first check-in feedback.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to this one as well. And then we're going to start doing I think we should start doing the rate who won, the week based off of that. So we'll submit, the stats from each one. And everybody can kind of judge, who won that week, and we'll have like a little voting, thing. Ben emoji.
What I want to know is number one, I don't know how you've managed to turn you coaching me into a competition. Number two, you're also going to be in control of it. So I'm going to have absolutely no idea like whether I've actually won or not. You're like, oh yeah, Dave won again this week. I'm like, oh right, okay, what the fuck?
I will play fair. I'm not going to cheat. I have both best interests, and I do genuinely want to beat you in this. So I mean, in a legit way. So
okay, so what is beating me? What does beating me look like?
Well, so what'll happen is, this is what I'm thinking, and totally up for interpretation. But my goal is that we would submit our a modified or short check-in video for that week. And we'd show the stats for that week, and if we're comfortable, progress photos I think would be a good one. I'm not sure if we'll do that or not, but it's up to you. I'm
comfortable at the minute, but maybe in like 3 or 4 months.
I was about to say, like, you're getting a little more bulky. I'm a grizzly bear. I'm like, I don't know, man, maybe not. But then we'd have in this separate channel. You could I'll put each week I'll put a new vote up for who wants to vote for that week, and then whoever
either
gets the most.
Son had Dave emoji or the
Son had Dave emoji and Ben emoji, right? Yeah, absolutely. So and then we'll vote and see who ends up winning that week of the progress and who put the most amount of effort into their check-in in their week, and then we'll go from there. So if you miss one, obviously that's going to be a negative. If you don't hit your steps, that's a negative. You go over your calories, that's a negative. If you talk too much shit on the podcast, that's a negative. So it'll be a good competition between the two of us, and that's fun. I love the gamification stuff. I think that's really good to keep things moving, right?
Yeah, agree for sure. One last thing I want to touch on before we get into it. Obviously, I've got the Belfast event. You haven't confirmed whether you're coming or not. You don't need to tell me now live in the podcast, but I had the call with everybody on Monday, and ironically enough, this has probably been the most difficult one to coordinate, and obviously it's here. It seems to be much easier to coordinate things US based. But I messaged Helmy on Monday morning. Helmy's going to come down and help me coach, and maybe a bit backwards, but I was like, what do you want my clients to get from you coaching them? Not like what I want from him to be there. And I'll quote what he said, and it made me excited for it. It made me excited for me to what that will provide for them.
Yeah.
He said, I want my impact is change their intent around training, think more, be more present, think beyond two-dimensional training, change their thought process for them to walk into the gym with a different intention than they did when they originally came to Belfast. That to me, like, you've met Helmy, so you'll understand that a bit more. I think that you can look at him and have a sort of thought about what type of person he is, but whenever you get to meet him in person and have an understanding of what he's actually like in real life, I think that I'm excited for everybody who's coming into Belfast to experience that side of Helmy as well. So that's the other thing I'll be doing is planning out the Belfast event. The amount of protein bars and treats and protein shakes that I have in the kitchen is definitely enough to keep us going.
That's awesome. I mean, dude, Helmy is
a big boy.
Is a big boy, but he's also, you know, like anything, anything like your preconceived notions of somebody when you first meet them. I mean, he's a teddy bear, right? Really nice guy, super humble, funny. I mean, listening to frickin', you know, Cyndi Lauper, you know, Cher, you know, whatever during workouts, and he's sitting there violently, you know, deadlifting 700-800 pounds while listening to, you know, not Beastie Boys, but like Backstreet Boys. You know, it's just like, all right, man, like who is this guy that I had in my mind and my image? But you know, I think that's what I like most about like this industry is that the health and fitness industry is that most folks that, you know, look like that are just the most humble people that want to help and explain how they've progressed and how they've you know, changed their lives and how they've been able to accomplish what they've done and be able to share that knowledge. And Helmy is such a humble guy. I mean, it was so cool to be able to drive with him and hang out with him, all that good stuff. So
even when we met Jared Feather, the guy that we met in Dragon's Lair, the day that I saw him, the day after I think, in Torture Gym in Vegas, Randy was sitting beside me, and like he's a big fucking dude. And Randy was like, "You're a big dude," and he was like, you know, he's like, "Oh yeah, you know, but you know, I find what you guys do more impressive." And I thought, like, how humble of him to say that. You know, I don't want to say it's easy for him, but that's obviously his life. But he recognizes that people that it's not their life who are making the effort to change and sort of overcome the challenges that is potentially more difficult. So exactly like you're saying, you know, they are nice, polite people willing to share information, and you know, it's cool to sort of see that and not have that, you know, I guess stereotype in your head.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you see a big person, you're like, oh, that person's going to be, you know, like a ego, maybe like a jock or, you know, whatever. But you know, it's cool. I mean, I think those preconceived notions are fine, you know, because there is a lot of bad ones, you know, out there. But at the same time, I mean, you have so many amazing people that I've been able to meet. That you know, you surrounded yourself with as well, and people that are just really great, humble people that, you know, are just trying to help other people out too. So Helmy's going to be some great.
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, basically being part of your tribe. Yep, for sure.
Yep. Right. Will we get into it?
So yeah, well, first of all, thank you for all of the unsolicited feedback that I got for my lifts the last week. Again, I got to put the advice text out, I think like 5 or 6 times. And these people I don't understand. Like, I don't understand, like, what gets in your head where you're like...
This is now a regular segment of the podcast of, like, 5 minutes of Dave ranting about people giving him unsolicited...
Like, I just don't get it. Like, it just drives me nuts. Like, one guy's like, hey, you know, it looks like you were struggling with that. Maybe you should do, like, half squats, you know, for, like, 6 months, and then that's gonna... I'm like, dude, I just PR'd on that. Like, of course it's gonna be heavy for me. Like, I'm moving up in volume, and, like, it doesn't make any sense what you're saying. Why would I switch? I just don't get it. Just don't get it. And he's like, well, then, you know, you should look at maybe doing, it's like jump squats. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, hold on. I'll do 500-pound jump squats here. Let me see how many of those.
Yeah, let me see your video of you doing. And then one guy was like, hey, I deadlifted 605 when I was in college. The guy's like 50 now. He's like, so I recommend this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, you got a video of you doing it when you're in college? Well, no. I'm like, okay, I'm like, here's the advice that TXT. You know, I just listen. I appreciate that people want to always like opine and help others out. That's not what I'm saying here, right? But you know, the advice that you're giving people has no contextual background of the person, what they're struggling with, what they have struggled with, do they have a trainer, you know, all these variables that come in. And so when you give this advice, this is, again, I apologize because I think I've said this every single podcast for a couple of days, but you know, when you give advice, you know, you're going to confuse the living hell of that person. And most of the time it's going to be bad advice. And some of these advices are crazy. Like, like someone had asked me, and this is actually a legit question, why don't I do, lower back squats, versus, barbell back squats versus high. And I just said, because I don't want to kill my back. That is my biggest concern. My erectors and everything else. I just want to be able to focus on my back being a stabilization effort, me focusing on my legs. Yeah, well, it's just cool when you do lower. I'm like, well, okay, like,
it's cool.
It's cool. Like, okay, it's cool. All right, it's just like conventional versus sumo. Like, why are you doing sumo? Well, because I like doing sumo. Cool, fantastic. It doesn't matter. So, anyways, I get off my high horse. But what we're talking about today, and this is actually parlays into exactly what we're talking about right here, which is, so I had done some really good squats. I did 400, 405 or so, really deep. Really solid. Did 425, 455, all good and solid. And I did 485 once. And, this is 45. It's a lot of weight that I'm putting on there. I'm very uncomfortable at that weight at this point. I haven't felt it yet. I don't know what I can do, what I'm capable of, right?
Can I give you some form feedback?
100%.
Not necessarily on your form, but I would feel more comfortable if you adjusted the safety straps whenever you're doing those squats, just in case.
Sounds good. So they're a little bit too low, is what you're saying?
They're a little bit too low, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Not your form, the setup more than anything else. Just in case.
Well, we're pushing this weight. If I'm failing, I need to do it safely, right?
Yeah.
100% agree. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will take your form feedback. Any form feedback you ever give me, it's always allowed, obviously. But with 485, I got some people shitting on me because I didn't go all the way down doing a massive, squat full depth. I'm like, I'm doing 45. It's the first time I'm feeling this weight, since I've broken my ankle. I'm making sure I'm not going to die. So let me get comfortable with the weight.
First port of call, don't die.
Right, don't die. I don't want to die. So, but is that even worth doing is the question. Okay. So the question is doing a squat that's 3/4 the way there less valuable than doing a squat that is, fully down, as deep as you can get. And, what we're taught and what everybody believes is that range of motion is the most important aspect, right, of movements. What's interesting is that there is some new research that came out, and this is out of the International Journal of Strength and Conditioning, which has done basically an article is published, Partial versus Full Range of Motion Resistance Training, a systematic review and meta-analysis. And what they did is they looked at muscle and hypertrophy growth and strength across their participants. And what they were trying to do is determine, hey, does full range of motion actually make a difference, or is it really time under tension? And you will hear this from a lot of bodybuilders, where bodybuilders are like, listen, do half reps. If you can't do full reps, and even Jeff Nipper did a video on this recently, where he talked about doing half bicep curls once you hit failure, just getting up this way. And so is it full range of motion, or that stretch, that motion that generates the muscle hypertrophy, strength, et cetera, that we know both from the short and fast twitch fibers? Or is it the time under tension that makes the most effectiveness for muscle building and strength?
Can I give my input before we get into it? Because I don't want to say, I don't want to know if I'm right, but I'll how I think. So you'll know this because we've done it, and anybody who's been doing an in-person session. For me, the biggest thing that I want to get across is active range of motion. And the biggest thing that I'll say time and time again is getting strong in the muscle and not just getting strong in the movement. So actually being able to move the weight and contract the muscle properly for the most part. But if you come to the end of the set and you need to do partial reps or half reps or 3/4 reps or quarter reps or whatever way you want to do it, in my opinion, there is a benefit to doing that, because over time that will become part of your active range. So looking at the difference between what the full range is, as in what your body's capable of moving, versus the active range, as in where you can move and actually be in control. So for example, if I'm lying on a bench and I have dumbbells, I can bring them right down to here. It's like that's my full range of motion, but I'm not able to activate my chest at that point. So for me, the active range is probably about there, and I can contract my chest and come out of it. So for me, active range over full range, and partial reps whenever you start to struggle towards the end.
Listen, I think there's the science of this, right? But there's also what allows you to do this, and proper form, positioning, and range of motion is important, right? Because I mean, that's how you feel muscle contraction. That's how you know when you're stretching the muscle. And that's also how you prevent injuries, right? So if you're just doing half ranges and you have poor form, well, you're probably gonna get injured. However, the thing is, let's just say you have good form and technique and you understand it. Does a half range of motion, i.e. only coming up a little bit on a bicep curl, not all the way up. So we're always taught, go all the way up, keep your shoulders tucked in, go all the way up, right? Go all the way up. But does this half, if you're looking on the thing, it has half, does that have, which one is more beneficial? Well, it turns out that full range of motion provides extremely little benefits compared to partial range of motion. When I say extremely, that's like 0.002% difference than full range of motion versus half range of motion, which I thought was kind of mind blowing because you listen to all of the different folks like you got to do full range of motion to get the muscle hypertrophy growth and all this other stuff, right? Turns out it's just bro science again. We again learn more that it's not full range of motion. There's no data to support that. And so what that means though, and if you listen to a lot of bodybuilders, it's all about glycogen depletion and making your muscle fail, right? And so if you're doing bicep curls, right, and you always hear the rep ranges, 3 to 5, 5 to 8, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 10 to 20, 10 to 30, whatever, 12 to 30. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter the range of those. It's a matter of getting your muscles as close to failure as possible. So if I'm coming up and I'm doing full range of motion, which is great in form and technique, but as I get up, I'm struggling to get those last reps, right? Well, start doing half reps and get that last little bit of glycogen out, that time under tension in your muscles, creating that stress and strain on those muscles to be able to maximize your gains. That's what this study is actually saying. But it's also saying, listen, if you don't do full range of motion and you only do half motion, your time under tension is greater in half motion than it is full range, you will see better benefits with that if your time under tension is increased more than full range of motion, or if they're exactly the same, your full range of motion is going to be 0.0002% more effective. Nothing, minuscule. You're not going to notice a difference, right? So, it's just interesting to me. Now, I want to read this one statement here. So when focusing on specific outcomes such as muscle growth and strength gains, and this is, by the way, from boxrocks.com doing the analysis of the research paper that came out. And these are direct quotes from the research portion as well. When focusing on specific outcomes such as muscle growth and strength gains, utilizing full range of motion demonstrated slight advantages. Furthermore, an intriguing finding emerged from the detailed analysis. Training with a restricted range of motion at longer muscle lengths might be more conductive to muscle growth compared to utilizing full range of motion. Notably, aligning the training ROM with the desired outcome ROM, range of motion, appeared to yield a superior strength improvement. So it's interesting how they're able to really pieces together and kind of throw out a lot of the bro science that we've been taught before in the past, and the data, the science, the studying the body. We continuously learn more and more about these every single day. And so for me, I a lot of times would focus on that 10 to 12 range, but once I hit 12, I'm like, well, I still got more in me, so I'm just gonna keep going. But I would stop once I couldn't get up, right? So if I get this way and I'm struggling, I can't get up, I'd be like, okay, I'm good, I'm failed. Well, here I can hit my muscles a little bit more, half range, keep going, and get just a little bit more out of that workout that I couldn't before. Or, from an injury perspective, this is a game changer, right? So if I'm doing, shoulder presses and this up here hurts, but here doesn't, well, I could do half, presses without injuring or agitating that specific muscle group, or leg extensions, leg curls, those types of things. Squats, for example, if my back is hurting when I get a certain position all the way down, if I'm doing half squats, same effect, same exact effect as if you're not, right? So these are just great things to add to your arsenal to help you with both strength and size and growth of your muscles as you're going through and doing your training.
I think just thinking through what you're saying there, obviously we know that the strength profile of your muscle is different. So you will go from weak to strong to weak, or vice versa, or whatever. So obviously one part of the muscle is going to fatigue before the rest. So just you talking about the shoulder press there, obviously as you come past this point, you're going to be slightly weaker there. So working a little bit more through the bit where you're stronger to fatigue that a little more, it'll challenge that. Whereas if you don't do that, you're limited by where you're weakest. And so, even from that perspective, it makes sense.
Yep. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, like, the training message training session that I do today for push. And this is a great example for and this is why I actually prefer machines over dumbbells or barbells. And I know, again, this is sacrilege, but with machines, you can easily do, especially on like the incline press, chest press that I have, you can easily do half range chest presses coming up and really smoke your chest.
It feels nice, especially on that machine. Like
great, right? Yeah. So, I'm going to definitely try to incorporate this a lot more into my training programs and routines, just to get a little bit more bang for the buck and time in there. So I'm curious to see if I see any massive results for it, but we'll see.
I'll add at least 30 minutes onto your session now, because you're going to be doing partials at the end of it.
3.5 to 4 hours now. Sorry, Aaron. But well, listen, I mean, our objective when we're doing this, people don't realize that most people, when they think failure, they're really not even close to being at failure, right? I mean, you literally should be violently shaking if you're at failure. But our goal is, we don't have to get to failure every time, but as close to failure as possible will yield the most results when it comes to muscle growth and hypertrophy. Depleting those glycogen stores, putting your time under tension in place, the amount of volume is really important. And there's a lot of bodybuilders, that are out there, iconic ones, all the way to new age, that, I mean, they attest to just massive amounts of volume and not a lot of weight, right? Just by burning themselves out to failure, they're able to get the size and volume that they're able to accomplish with that, versus kind of the powerlifting mentality, which is going to be predominantly on strength. Now, again, I like the blend. I like being strong. I like being big. So, I definitely try to focus on high compound or heavy compound movements at first, switching out to burning the muscle out in failure as I go along. Just an example, yesterday, I couldn't walk up the steps. That's a good example of failure, right? I mean, my legs are shaking.
Still not got an elevator put in the gym,
right? I need to get that put in. So, anyways, good example there.
I think a quick note on failure there, because I think that we talk about this a bit willy nilly. Like, don't go into the gym first day and just push everything to failure. Like, it is a learned skill. If you're new to the gym, you will get massive gains just by actually going and training. You'll also progress a lot quicker than somebody who has trained for a long period of time. So it is a process to actually get to there. You do have to learn what it actually feels like. And like you said, not just the safety mechanism that your mind has, that it says, I actually don't really feel comfortable with this now, let's stop. But actually your body can do that a little bit more. So, it's even as, when he said, whenever you put me through hell on the hack squat machine when we were in Dragon's Lair, it's like understanding what it takes, and like the mental thing, the mental battle, the mental place that you need to go to, like all of that is something that you learn over time. Don't expect to go in the gym first day and be like, right, hack squat, 5 plates each side, we're going to failure. It's like that's a recipe for disaster.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's an incremental build up too. Like when you first start lifting, if you're going on a training program with you, Ben, you always say focus on lightweight first and getting the form down, right? Because you don't know how heavy you can lift. It's a building up and ramping up period, right? But at the end of the day, though, let's just say you put on 225s and you're doing a barbell back squat, right? And you're doing 50 pounds or 95. So 25, and then 45 with the bar. You're doing those and it's feeling good, and you knock out 12 to 15 of those. Well, cool. Next week I'm going to do put 10 pounds on each side. Maybe I get to 10, right? So I'm starting to feel the weight, but I'm starting to get comfortable with the weight as I'm going down, and I'm starting to build my form up and getting feedback and critiques as I start to do it. And then you start to build up. A good example, you had sent me the deadlift form that we did a couple of years ago. And I think I had two, 45s on the side. So it was like 135 pound deadlifts, right? And, but I was just starting off getting form, technique, everything else. And now I'm close to the 600 mark on deadlifts, right? So it's that gradual progression and increasing, but you always want to try to be increasing your weight once you have good form, because that's what's going to allow you to blow through plateaus and also get you the desired results. Again, slowly 1 to 2 pounds of muscle per month over time. But you should always be shooting for, either volume increase or weight increase. So either amount of reps, amount of sets, or the amount of weight that you're putting onto those in order to maximize your goals and objectives from a strength building perspective.
Yeah, and one of the reasons, just to, I guess, give a bit of the why behind it, one of the reasons that I start with sort of lighter weights, higher reps initially is because it takes time to actually learn like how your body moves and how you contract the muscle. And by doing the reps, the more reps that you do, the more repetitions you do, the more chances and opportunities that you have to actually learn that. So instead of everybody going in and just doing like 6 reps of everything, it will take you longer to learn what that feels like versus doing, 3 or 4 sets of 10 to 15. Yes, okay, it sucks, and doing anything for 15 reps sucks, and I hate it because it's at that point it's cardio. But at the start, whenever you have the capacity to do it and you have the sort of lower muscle mass, you have the potential to do it and recover. But it's just a learning process, probably more than anything else. And I think that people maybe don't take that into consideration, that they actually need to learn how to move, probably more than anything else.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like for me, when I'm doing certain ranges and feeling kind of the weight itself, and when I do a new set of weight, I'm very careful on how I do it. Now I still rely on my form, but at the same time, like, do I know that that's a weight that I can handle? Especially for things like squat, very scary. Squats are very scary to me. Deadlifts are great because I can just put it down, right? Pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. Very easy. Squats, you have a shit ton of weight on your back that literally some dude just died recently, from a squat. Obviously not practicing a lot of safety. So squats are really scary to me, especially for my back, my ankle, my legs, my knees. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in a squat if you don't have proper form. So, a lot of times when I'm coming down, I'm feeling the weight, I'm testing it and testing my body to see what I can do. And maybe I'm a little bit more reserved than I should be. And I should, test out the failure, get my safety straps up a little bit more and seeing, how far I can actually go down. If I can't get back up, then fine. But, to me, I have a little bit of reservation there. Now, what I'll say is that, again, back to bro science, everybody says, well, the back squat is superior to everything else. And the truth of the matter is, well, what's your objective? If your objective is strength, you're probably right. If it's coming to muscle fatigue, volume, and muscle hypertrophy, you're definitely wrong. The hack squat seems to be one of the most superior quadricep focused isolated movements that you can do. So it takes out a lot of the back support, although you still do have back loading, but the range of motion and the focus on quadriceps with hack squats scientifically has been shown. There's a study, there's been numerous studies that have looked at hack squat versus squats themselves, have the same type of engagement as a squat, but a very heavy load and focus and range of motion on the quadriceps themselves, which load them more than a traditional back squat because you're taking into account back and everything else. So if your focus is to blow out your quads, especially from a volume and endurance perspective, hack squat is going to be one of the best exercises that you can ever possibly do. That and leg extensions, to me, are the two main ones for just blowing your legs up and your quads. If you want to have big quads, leg extensions, hack squats all day long. I wouldn't even touch back squats, to be honest with you.
Well, I think that
if that's your goal.
If that's your goal, yeah, and I did hack squat this morning, and I can confirm it sucks.
It does suck. Not as bad as pendulum squats. F those things.
Yeah. That's very true. Very, very true.
I'm not doing those. F them. I don't care.
But the thing about it is, if you think about whenever you're doing a movement, essentially the less things that you need to think about and the more focused it can be, the better that you will get from that, if that makes sense. So like you're saying, you don't need to worry about stability as much in a hack squat. You don't need to worry about supporting the weight because you just move on the runner. You don't have a lot of lower back loading as long as you're pressing the back against the machine. So it can be a lot more focused. Whereas on a normal back squat, you have to know that, the weight could literally crush you. So there's a lot more stability, which provides its own benefits. But understanding when to sort of program and what to utilize. I'm not a fan of normal barbell squats. I don't know if I would say that I'm a fan of hack squat, but I definitely would prefer it over a normal barbell squat for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and I do enjoy the back squats because it's actually a relatively new movement for me because I've always either done, safety squats or squats on the Smith machine, which everybody gives shit for. I love the Smith machine. I listen to Mind Pump and they were shitting all over Smith machines. And it's fine, but it's a comfortability thing. And here's the thing: who cares what it looks like, or if it's a crutch in the sense of, oh, it's not the traditional barbell back squat. If it allows you to hit your muscles in a way that you're not getting injured, it allows consistency and form, and allow you to feel the weight where you have a safety net there, then why are we talking about that as being a negative thing, right? There's always this meme that pops up in my Instagram thing, and it's it's a guy that's basically about to he's on a Smith machine, and he's about to put this pad on it so that he can put the pad on his back, and it's like bitch. God coming down and saying that, right? And he takes it off really fast, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if it's a comfort thing for you, then who cares what everybody else is thinking? And now I have the same thing with adductor and abductors, right? I don't like going to a gym and, being in a vulnerable position there, based on how I'm going to look. So, thank God I'm getting one in my house now, so I don't have to tell anybody about it or show anybody about it. I'm definitely not taking any videos of me doing that. But at the end of the day, what is your goal? Who cares what other people say about it? It's about you progressing and being forward. So if you're not comfortable with barbell back squats, use a Smith machine or use hack squats. If you aren't comfortable with hack squats, do something different. So whatever you're trying to do, it's all about that volume, time under tension, and making that fatigue in your muscles so that we grow and build in strength and size. And who cares about anything else out there, right?
Well, I think it just comes down to stop caring about what other people think. If it allows you to move towards your goal and you're comfortable with it, and it's something that you enjoy in the loosest sense of the term, like, then all for it. Do you know what I mean? And it's back to the building the thing out for you and not just doing the norm. Do you know what I mean? Carving your own path with it. And people think that they need to do bench press because I will say this though, anytime I'm giving an example of a movement, I'm talking about tempo or I'm talking about range of motion. You saw me do it earlier, like I'll talk about bench press because it's the first thing that comes in my head, but it doesn't mean you need to do bench press. So yeah, find what works for you, in terms of your body. Also availability of equipment.
I've completely eliminated barbell bench press. I'm not barbell, barbell bench press, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I've completely eliminated that from my workout routines just because, I would always, even with the kabuki bar, I don't do that anymore either. I've just found I prefer dumbbells. I have more control over dumbbells. They feel better on my chest from an exercise perspective, and I don't get the strain on my shoulders like I do with barbell bench presses and everything else, and shoulder injuries. So,
yeah.
For me, it's been literally, I haven't touched a barbell or a kabuki bar on the bench in 6 months or 4 months.
My preference is incline Smith machine. I know it's still a straight bar, but I think it's just a movement that I really enjoy if I can get the setup right on it and it's a nice Smith machine. And yes, okay, give me shit for using the Smith machine, whatever. But again, we've talked about reverse banding and being able to sort of adjust where you feel the tension and how it works. But I did those. I was actually at that point in the session on Monday, and I was like, this feels really good. Like, I'm into this. So just stuff that you enjoy. And again, it's just a time thing. Do you know what I mean? It's taken me a while to... I'm not saying that there's anything that I would go, fuck that, I'm not doing that, because this way, I would always do it. But there are things that I find for myself are more beneficial, whether it's a case of I'm just feeling more comfortable in the movement, or it's better for my body, or I know I can move more weight in it, whatever. Just have my go-tos and that.
Yeah. Well, getting onto another topic here on bro science, there's another article here that I really liked, and this is from lpass.com, and I'll send the link to this. But there's it was a really great article that I liked because it's basically the title of it's "Beware of Gym Bros: Science Debunks the Myth of Strength Training Gurus," right? And I think this is what we're talking about this whole podcast, which is, there's a lot of people out there with opinions, and a lot of those opinions were forged from either old data, no data at all, what their friends told them, what they thought, happened to see a blurb or an article or a hot take on something. So you really need to be careful of the type of information you do. One of these ones here that I thought was really interesting, and this is a very common conception, which is, and I'll read the paragraph here. A gym bro will tell you to be careful when you stop training because muscles can turn into fat. Nothing is further from the truth. Scientific evidence is clear that in this regard, that fat and muscle are tissues with different structures and functions. Muscle is made up of muscle fibers that can increase in size, i.e. muscle hypertrophy, with scheduled training, and decrease in size if training ceases. Again, muscle hypertrophy. Fat cells can increase in size when there is an increase in caloric intake. What often happens is that the gym bro consumes more calories when training, compensating for the caloric expenditure due to exercise. But when they stop training, they continue to consume the same amount of calories, therefore generating an increase in fat cells as the period of inactivity occurs. And this is just, I love that art. I love that paragraph, because it's all, at the end of the day, all we're talking about in fitness, if you want to lose weight, you eat less calories, or you burn more calories and you stay with the same kind of consumption, right? It's simple, thermogenics of our bodies. Our bodies have what we call total daily energy expenditure, which consumes a certain amount of calories a day based on our level of activity. And if we eat more calories than we burn, we turn those immediately into fat stores. And it makes perfect sense. Our bodies like to store fat because it's an easy 1-to-1 ratio of energy in our body. So if we have a month where we don't have food because it's a bad winter storm, or, there's no animals, we just suck at hunting, these are the things that our bodies will do to ensure that we can still survive as a human species perspective. Now, obviously it didn't, our bodies didn't take into consideration how fast we would evolve and have access to readily available food all the time, right?
Didn't take into consideration Uber Eats.
Yeah, it did not. Our bodies were like, oh man, Uber Eats just came out. We're good. Like, stop storing fat, right? So, but what I do find interesting is that we evolved in our brains to be able to combat this, right? So if you look at like semaglutide, for example, or tirzepatide, so Moderna or Wegovy, the weight loss miracle drugs that everybody's talking about here. So these are injections that basically hit the GLP-1 receptors in your bodies to basically say you're always full. Okay, so when you eat food, your stomach sends a signal to your brain saying, hey, I'm no longer hungry, stop eating, okay? In a lot of obese people, that signaling is actually messed up, which is why they continue to eat. They never get that full sensation as they go and do it. With those two instruction sets of the peptides, it basically sends those instruction sets up to our brain, basically saying, hey, we're full all the time. So while we didn't evolve biologically from a fat store perspective, we did evolve brain-wise to combat the evolution that we had in the amount of food that we can store. So I find it interesting that our brains are architecting ways for us to evolve because our bodies can't catch up with it and the food that we have out here. But I'm not saying you should just be, injecting these things for weight loss. You need to understand, less food equates to weight loss, more food equates to weight gain. And your muscles, you don't lose essentially the muscles, but your muscles will dwindle in size, after you, because if you don't need it, if you're not lifting weights, where your body's like, well, why do I need to have this additional calorie burn? I'd rather put that, to fat stores and have less calories so that I can live longer, right? It makes perfect sense. So if we're not lifting weights, our bodies are like, well, I don't need to lift weights anymore. It's not part of my daily job or my routine to support my tribe, to support my community and my family, to go out and forage for food. I'm good. So I need to shrink down my physique and my muscles, and which is going to thus turn down my calorie intake. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. Therefore, you shrink in size. But that takes weeks and weeks and weeks, by the way, for that process to start. So even if you're just doing a little bit of active things, push-ups, things like that, your muscles are still going to be engaged. They won't drop. So by the way, you also, if you stop and you've lost all that, your muscles actually remember what it needed to be at in order to hit your current maintenance. They're smart like that, and they'll actually grow much faster than anybody else. So if you did weight training early in your teenager years or early 20s, and you stop for 10 years, your muscles, you have a much better chance of becoming substantially larger much faster because of that training before in the past.
Well, my question is, if you're not lifting weights, what the fuck are you doing? Why not?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the amount of times we've talked about the benefits to the longevity of your life, like why are you not lifting weights? Do you know what I mean? The secret to your muscles not getting smaller and your body going through that process is just continue to lift weights.
What's crazy is how the science is really shaping around resistance training, and that resistance training is being shown in multiple occasions of being so much superior to longevity than cardiovascular training. You are still working out your heart. You are still working out, blood. You're adding bone density. You're adding muscle mass. You live longer, right? It was always thought you have to be in good cardiovascular shape to live longer. It's actually the opposite. Well, don't get me wrong, it's not the opposite. You still want to have good cardiovascular health, but it's actually resistance training that is the superior form of health that is showing in all of these studies now that we thought, hey, it's all about cardio. It's not. I mean, cardio is great. Don't get me wrong. You still need cardio. You need good health and heart support. But as you get older, maintaining muscle mass and bone density is going to be some of the most important things you can do to stay alive.
I agree.
All right, the next one. To stretch or not to stretch? That is the question. So we're always taught to stretch, right? Before we work out, got to stretch, got to make sure everything's good. And when I was in the Marines, we had to do the same thing. Before we would do PT, we'd stretch, right? Turns out it has no effect at all. So let's read this first. And then I'm going to rephrase that. The traditional inactive / passive stretching has no effect. Here we go. Scientific evidence also, to stretch or not stretch. Scientific evidence also clarifies whether or not you should stretch between sets and exercises or before. Passive low intensity stretching does not produce beneficial changes in muscle size and structure, whereas stretching involving tension with loads or muscle activation can lead to increased muscle mass, i.e. hypertrophy. A professional trainer can tell you the best way to train according to your needs and time. Stretching before exercising helps prevent injury due to excess muscle tension. Regarding its passive or dynamic use, it will depend on the type of training. Active dynamic stretching is better to prepare the muscles for high intensity efforts, while passive stretching helps to improve flexibility and range of motion. Again, a gym bro should not bypass common sense and alter the training routine. You always have to stretch, but depending on the effort required of the session. So it's not saying stretching is bad, but if you're doing high intensity, i.e. resistance training, those types of things, you want to be focusing more on the range of motion, the type of exercise that you're doing versus the actual stretching itself, motion. So if I'm doing deadlift, that's why you'll commonly see warm-up sets, right? So a warm-up set with, just the bar, maybe 245s on the side, just to feel the range, get my muscles working, get my hip flexors going, start to prime my muscles to be in that type of position. And then from there, gradually adding on and feeling the weights as you go along. Or else you just go up to the weight, throw 600 pounds on deadlift and then lift up. It doesn't work that way, right? That's where you're prone to injury. So doing the more dynamic stretches, things that will prepare your muscles and warm them up, definitely good. That's why a lot of times people will say, before you actually go and lift, do like 5 minutes of cardio, not high intensity cardio, but something that's going to get you to at least break a sweat. So it raises your body temperature and your body's basically primed to go from an exercise perspective. Whereas if you're doing something like cardiovascular work, stretching beforehand may be beneficial more on the passive side to allow you to be able to get to the goals that you need to.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny whenever you mention stretching, like I remember back to having to do my practical exam whenever I qualified to be a personal trainer, and they go through all that and you're like, it's such a fake setup of what a real world PT session would be like. And truthfully, like I never did it the way that they map it out whatsoever, but obviously it's the curriculum that they have to go over. And it was like passive stretching. I'm like, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to do this. And one of the other things was about you had to do a silent demonstration. I remember it was the weirdest thing. So like if I brought you over and we were like, right, pec deck, I'm like, this is the pec deck, it works your pecs, and then I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to do a movement, and I do it silently, and then I talk through it, and I'm like, what the fuck sort of reality is that? Like, who is ever going to pay me money to do that, to like be silent on the machine? It's the weirdest thing. But anyway, yes, in terms of stretching, I think this is why I prefer warm-up sets. So yes, you can do a small amount of cardio to warm your body up. Like warm up is to essentially heat your body up so that you're not prone to injury in that way. But I prefer warm up sets because not only will it get the blood flow in the muscle and sort of prime the muscle for the movement, it will also like signal to your central nervous system that okay, this is what we're doing now. And again, sort of prepare it. So yeah, that would be my preference.
Yep, same here. And then the last one before we wrap up here. Strength for children and adults. So I was always taught that you don't want to introduce kids to resistance training early on because it will A, stunt their growth, B, mess their muscles up, C, cause injury. Turns out that is also not accurate. So here's the latest here. Some believe that children should not perform strength training as it will reduce their growth. This is a myth. The American Academy of Pediatrics released a 2008 guide on the benefits of strength training in children and adolescents, and there's been a number of other reports and research observed in this as well. The report observes that strength training improves children's muscle strength and reduces injury as long as the exercises are supervised by professionals in physical education classes and extracurricular activities. Finally, we must not forget our elders. It is commonly believed that the older someone is, the less strength training they should be doing. Strength training has multiple benefits for your health. It reduces sarcopenia, muscular weakness, and a loss of mobility. Anyone should start with low loads and volume in order to progress to exercises of moderate to high intensity. It has also been observed that for older folks, multi-component training, which includes strength work, can improve their physical condition. It is important to banish the idea of strength training as an exclusionary associated with gym bros. Strength training is recommended for children, the elderly, pregnant women, the chronically ill, and more. The key is to put yourself in the hands of a professional who knows how to guide your routine. I think that's such a important statement because you're never too old to start. You can start anytime. Doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, 90 years old. My great grandma, for example, died at 102 years old. She would smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, and she would go and walk like 5 miles at like 99. and she'd go bowling on a bowling league twice a week. 99 years old, like fantastic, right? Amazing generation, obviously, from smoking packs of cigarettes to, I mean, these are like unfiltered too, like menthols. I'm like, geez, great grandma, what are you doing here?
I had a call with a guy yesterday, Jason, a real good call with him. He said he's listened to every podcast episode, so appreciate that. But he was talking about, he goes back to the gym in the evening and spends some time in the sauna and the steam room with older guys that still lift. He said there's guys that are like 75 and 80, they still ain't killed. He was like, that's what I want. It's like, I'm not thinking about the short-term results. It's like, how can I still do this in 40 years so that I can be the inspiration to the people behind? I'm like, I want to be that person. Do you mean I want to be 70, 80 still in the gym? I don't know if I'll be lifting the same weights that I do now. But
whoa.
More. I'll be lifting more, is what I'm saying. I'll not be lifting the same. They'll be higher. But it's cool to see that, it's that thought process, and it comes back again to, not to always talk about Hormozy, but, he says, instead of thinking about years, thinking decades. Do you know what I mean? Like, where can I be in 10 years? Like, what will that look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah, it's those things that, the misnomers and misconceptions that at a certain point in time you have to give up, right? And that's not true. You don't ever have to give up. Now, maybe I'm not deadlifting, 605 pounds when I'm 80. I'll be deadlifting 700, 800. But, it's one of those things that, continuously staying active, being out there, dedicating time to yourself, all the things that we talk about, day in and day out here on the podcast, and what we're seeing from, the latest research, the latest, data that's coming out there. It is the most beneficial thing you can do to live longer. So if you want to live longer, lift weights, period. Women, you're not going to get massively bulky and huge and massive if you're doing resistance training. That, again, is a misnomer. And you can definitely tone and look more physically fit, but you're not going to get massive shoulders and, massive quads and things to that effect, right? It's just, we're built differently in many senses based off of testosterone and everything else. Unless you're using, performance enhancing drugs, then you can absolutely get however large you want to get. There are some very big women that are much larger than me. That the one at Dragon's Lair, my God, she was huge.
Yeah. She was actually training in torture gym as well. Yeah, she was. There was a couple of, they're obviously like professional bodybuilders, but I respect the work that goes into it. It makes me laugh whenever people say, and I actually, again, had a call with a girl, Laura, this week, and she says, I know that, generally females say that they don't want to get big and bulky. She's like, I'm not against it. And I was like full transparency, the big and bulky thing, like, I've actively been trying to get big and bulky for almost 10 years. It's not something that happens by accident. Do not worry.
Right. Yes. You don't have to worry about getting just so large that, you're going to get a look.
Like, do two press ups and you just fucking stand up and you're like the Hulk. Like, I wish.
Yeah. So, but this is dispelling a lot of the, things that people have been taught before in the past, right? And I think that's really important for us to be able to dispel that and to help people out with understanding what's real, what's not, the latest, science. And here's the thing, like, one thing that we say today may change completely tomorrow based off of new data that we get, right? And that's the cool part, I think, about this, is that, you look at a lot of the research that's going into, and there's a lot of specialized fields just around physical fitness and growth and things to that effect. And it's going to be interesting to see, how this field continuously progresses. But, there was Dr. Lane Norton just released a new study, and, there's new research being done all the time, and we're learning new things all the time. One of the things that there's a new Human Labs podcast, and I haven't mentioned him in a while. There's a new about grounding, and I do want to do some research on this. Are you familiar with grounding?
Yeah.
So, basically going barefoot onto earth and, feeling the earth and kind of doing that type of thing. There's actually some decent data and science behind that around how it stimulates your body and actually produces things like recovery and other things that are out there. So I want to listen to his latest podcast, and I also want to do a little more research on it. But that'd be something that I incorporate on top of, my red light therapy, on top of my sauna,
and your
on
cold
top
plunge.
of everything else. Yeah, not cold plunge.
Listen, we had a conversation on the podcast. It's on the internet. You said you were going to do it.
I know. I'm kind of backing out though. Like,
well,
again,
I tell you this, in the coaching competition, the thing that you said you were going to do is cold plunges. So every day that you don't do one is a deduction in points from this moment forward.
No.
I think never said. I think. Well, no. We don't decide. We'll let the audience decide. So anybody who's listening, Anybody
No,
who's listening,
listen, that
please
is
let
cheating
us
here,
know.
everybody.
Please let
I
us
think you
know.
should be deducted points for cheating. You should be
Please
deducted
let
points
us
for
know that
cheating.
we think if Dave doesn't do a cold plunge every single day, it's a deduction in
Are you just
points.
cheating because you're worried I'm going to beat you,
No,
Ben?
no,
I
no.
mean,
I
you come
just
up with these new rules.
listen. This is the way it goes. I'm the coach.
Well, listen, hey, another great podcast, and a lot of good stuff that we ran through. Again, our whole purpose here is to help the community. And I will say this last week, I don't know what it was, but this last week, I have seen so many people share their stories, new stories that I haven't seen before about weight loss, about changing their health, and really what we've been able to accomplish. And when I say we, it's everybody listening here. It's everybody sharing their stories. We're just a mechanism providing and facilitating it. But, you're all out there doing the work, keeping people motivated, bringing people in, preaching about, hacking your health. And we're so appreciative of this community and everything we've been able to accomplish, especially in such an industry that is focused on lack of sleep, alcoholism, just tearing our bodies apart, not caring about nutrition and food. It's great to see folks of all ages be able to have a resource and people in the industry that have had success with this where we maybe have failed so many other times. And this week, man, there's so many different stories. Hey, I lost 70 pounds, 80 pounds. I'm just starting. I lost 30 pounds. Hey, I did this and I did that.
One idea I did
have
have in line with this, if there's a way that we could correlate this data, I don't know how the fuck we would do it. The total amount of pounds lost from everybody within the WeHack Health community, like that would be an insane number. If there's a way that everybody could share in some capacity, if we can put that together, because that would be an absolutely insane number.
Yeah, agreed for sure. Well, thanks for tuning in. You can always check us out on WeHack Health on Discord. We have an awesome Discord community, discord.gg/WeHackHealth. Great community there, sharing stuff, motivating one another, progress photos, whatever. We have a women's only chat, a men's only chat. We have all of these different topics all around keeping yourself and benefiting yourself. We have a chat on supplements. We have a chat on TRT, which, if you've listened to last week's podcast, I'm now, co-owner of imhrt.com. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, not trying to do a promo here, I guess I could or whatever, it's our podcast, but I really believe in it. I think that's a big important thing. I'm excited that I'm part of something that is helping people get better with their health and life and correct things where our medical system is failing. So I'm really excited about that one and about what we're doing here, but we'll catch you next week. Same time, same place. And that's it for us.
See you next week.